City of Northglenn, Channel 8, keeping you informed of events in your community.
Good evening. I see the purpose now of the gavel. I will now call the study session meeting of February 10th, 2020 to order. Will the city clerk please call roll?
Mayor Leidy.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilford.
Here.
Councilmember Witkovich.
Here.
Councilmember Peterson.
Here.
Councilmember Downing.
Here.
Councilmember Brown will be absent. Councilmember Goff.
Here.
Councilmember Duran-Mullica.
Here.
Councilmember Escabel.
Here.
Thank you. Welcome, everybody. So our number one item for the study session today is the Northglenn Civic Center construction documents and final guarantee maximum price review. We have Amanda Peterson, Director of Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Services, along with the project consultant team, and they will provide an update to council on the construction documents. And welcome. Tell us all about it.
All right. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Amanda Peterson, Director of Parks, Recreation, and Culture. We have with us tonight a good chunk of the consultant team. For the most part, you're going to hear from Paul with MIG, Daniel with Barker Rinker Seacat, and Chris from Semple Brown, speaking about each of the components of the design process as we finished that up. And then staff will give you an update on pricing and where we're at and some next steps moving forward. We also have the rest of the both internal and consultant team here, or some representatives. We have, who do I have back here? Eric and Nate from the internal project team. We have Nate Richards. You're going to see a name trend. We have Nate Richards, who is with Project One and the project administrator. And then we have Nathaniel Sperry with FCI. So if all else fails, just call out Nate and one of them is going to respond. But we wanted to take tonight as an opportunity to update you on that final design. You will see that most of the imagery you're going to see tonight really looks almost exactly like it looked at the last stage, because most of what we worked on during that construction document phase was behind the scenes. I think I've mentioned this before, I didn't realize how many hours we were going to spend talking about door hinges and door hardware. But those are things that you don't see in the renderings, right? It doesn't show up in the pretty pictures of it, but lots of that detail work done behind the scenes. And that all goes into the final pricing for the project. But we will make sure we point out to you anything that are modifications or changes to the design or updates to the design that are part of that kind of visual experience. So we will get to that. We'll go ahead and get started here. First up is schedule. And really the highlight of this slide is we remain on schedule. So all of the grayed out items are tasks that have been accomplished and are complete. The two items in black there, the issuance of the final guaranteed maximum price is scheduled for February 24th. So if you will keep that in mind tonight, one of the things we're hoping to get from you is consensus on that FGMP so that we can bring that forward to you 2 weeks from this evening. And then building construction and permitting to start immediately following that. And the team is ready to go as soon as they have that FGMP and permit in hand. With that, the estimated grand opening still remains at that fall 2021. That date hasn't changed throughout the process, but as we continue to get closer, we'll be able to narrow that down closer and closer to what the actual date will be. And with that, I'm actually going to turn it right over to Paul. He's going to go review with you the whole site, primarily Festival Lawn, the Veterans Memorial Plaza, and then the outdoor children's play area. Turn that over to you, Paul. I'm actually just going to sneak my notes back from you if you don't mind.
Good evening. As Amanda said, we are looking at many of the things we've seen previously. The site plan you see here gives you the basic layout of this phase. We have Memorial Parkway running east-west from Community Center Drive, and to the north of that, we have the tracks that include the Festival Lawn on the left and the Veterans Memorial Plaza on the right above the parkway. And then, of course, we have the main lot for the Recreation Center, Senior Center and Theater with the parking to the south, and the parcel-wide detention lot on the north end. And of course, all that has been landscaped or will be landscaped per city codes and standards. The festival lawn is the first element that I'd like to feature. And once again, this is a multi-use space, very flexible, intended to be able to handle concerts and many events. It's got a range of textures in the pavements and materials and different places for people to sit in the shade. As you can see, we have lines of trees. We have opportunities for food trucks for festivals or a food truck festival in itself. We've accommodated the shade structure that covers your stage during concert events. That's on the right-hand side of the plan view, kind of the white ghosted area that you see there, and that's been designed to accommodate that over a paved area. So you will be able to.
I just wanted to ask one question, because when I was looking at this earlier at home, I just want to make sure that Memorial Parkway is two-way street.
Yes.
Okay, it's a little bit difficult to tell in the drawings.
Yes, it's two-way street, but as you can see by this view, at the Veterans Memorial Plaza, because of the location of the existing sculpture, there is no angle parking on the north side, so on the east end. But it's two-way angle parking on the western half. And this kind of gives you a plan view of the Memorial Parkway area. We do have streetscaping and planters on the south side. We also, as you can see, it dead ends into the Recreation Center drop-off and entry. So the building creates a great terminus for this wonderful civic avenue going into the site, and we think it's really going to create a really nice civic setting for the community. The Veterans Memorial Plaza, you've seen this before. Once again, the sculpture remains in place. It's very well protected by the contractor at this point in time. And so we've designed around that. We are featuring the service branches in the theme in both materials and details and memorial plaques. And of course, we're accommodating the existing dedication pavers and making room for additional dedication pavers. This is a view just as you're entering the plaza from the east, and you'll notice in the foreground of this 3D perspective, there are a couple of concrete bases on either side, and those accommodate your dedication plaques, the bronze plaques that were in the plaza before, so people will be able to easily read these now. They're at eye level, and you can really understand that information, and you see the view of the plaza itself. The color bands that you see in the plaza reflect the various colors from each service branch, so they're memorialized there. And of course, we have seat walls and planters. This is a view, backing up a little bit to the east, and we do have a blade sign that has the name of the plaza, and that's something you were lacking in the past. There was no monumentation to say what exactly we're looking at. So we've got a great space that I think is something that the veterans that we've talked to have been very supportive of. The outdoor play for the preschool area is a really fun, interactive concept with the opportunities for education and learning and hands-on tactile events. It does feature an agricultural theme, and you can see we have barn themed play structures, a tractor play structure that'll provide some of the larger motor skills, sandboxes, and a whole series of surfacing synthetic turf surface that'll feel like natural grass, and then obviously the report and place surfacing and concrete pavements for games and that sort of thing. There are also picnic tables in this area and small planters for growing vegetables. Anything on the site? Right, Daniel?
Good evening. go through a little bit of the architecture of the building itself. Again, as we've introduced, it's very similar to what you've seen in the past in previous plans. Again, the building is set up sort of on 2 levels with 2 separate entrances. The main entrance for the rec portion of the building is on sort of the lower level, and the main entrance for the theater is separate and distinct on the south side of the building on the upper level. So what you see in this first floor overall plan is the lower level. That red arrow up there is the main entrance to the rec center. From the plan coming down is it's at the terminus of the parkway as it comes down here. So again, overall, the plan has not changed. Pools on the left, sort of a core of locker rooms and mechanical, electrical, plumbing spaces in the middle, gymnasium, and then moving over to the theater and back of house theater spaces on the right. The preschool remains up on top, and Paul was explaining that preschool play, which is right outside of the preschool with direct access as well. On the upper level, all the way on the right side of the plan where that red arrow is, again, is the upper level. That's the main entrance, distinct for the theater, the community spaces, and the senior area activity spaces up there on the top right. There is access down through the building internally to get to the lower level, but it is not intended to be a high-flowing sort of people going back and forth. On the left side of the plan, what you see is the upper level of the fitness area, so that will be open fitness, a walk jog track, aerobics rooms, etc. So we'll dive right in. If you walk right into the front door of the rec center, this is what you'll see, a reception desk. You'll see up to this fitness area above. This is a pre-control space. So once you go past the desk, up the stairs, for instance, or down this hallway is where you have to pay to play. That's where you get to the pool, that's where you get to the gyms, that's where you get to sort of all the fitness areas. But pre-control, we still have access to the preschool, still have access to the indoor play space and the party rooms that are beforehand.
Question.
Oh, please.
Oh, go ahead. Are the finishes and the colors and everything that we see in these photos what we're going to see when we walk into the building, or are those still in flux?
The finishes that you see in the renderings are very close.
Okay.
In a couple of slides forward, you'll see the materials that were actually selected.
Great.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that was helpful. The reason that I ask is I see Northglenn is broken into 2 separate words in the yellow. And I unfortunately think sometimes folks either cut Northglenn into 2 words or leave off an N.
Sure.
And I wondered if maybe we could look at like a city logo or something instead of
So I will
chopping
give
up
you
city.
when he says that the colors and such are close. That is one space we've talked about a little bit. We've thrown around lots of ideas, but we haven't fully agreed upon whether that's different recreation words, whether that's imagery, so that little block in the yellow isn't fully decided. But as you think more like finishes, so the material on the front of the desk, the material that's sitting behind that front desk, those are starting to get much closer to what we'll actually see. You'll actually see some image kind of inspiration boards at the end of each section that'll have some example materials that staff have gone through and looked at selecting, really weighing those based on 1, durability, 2, cost, and 3, their aesthetic appearance. Most of the colors in the building, they are loosely inspired by the colors in our logo. You'll see most of the rooms, they're a little more muted version. And most of the rooms, not all 4 colors show up in any one space. There's kind of a neutral color palette and then 1 or 2 of those colors. There are a couple exceptions to that, being the pool, which is a more playful area, as well as the preschool classrooms. And you start to see a few more of those colors show up in a single classroom.
Great. It's all beautiful. That was just the one issue.
Yep. Sorry, I should have prefaced that. We had slotted it in a little later, but since the question came up, so here's why.
Thank you.
Any other questions before we move on? Okay, so as you come through into the building, and if you hang a left before right there. Past the reception desk, you'll get to the preschool rooms. Two still, again, direct access to the tot lot outside. It's a fully fenced area. There's a storage and workspace in the middle. The intent there is so that staff doesn't have to tear down the room and put it all back together. They have some place to prep for classes and such. Each of the spaces have their own restroom, their own sinks, their own refrigerators, fully outfitted to run a licensed program. This is a little view inside the one of the preschool rooms. What you see here is one of the spaces, and then past that is where you would check in. So we have it set up so you have one sort of check-in zone, and you can go either way. But you can still communicate between the two rooms through that area, but it keeps sort of a high level of security and control over where the children are and where the parents are, et cetera. But nice light out to the top lot there on the left. This is one of the boards that we were talking about. On these boards, you'll see various paint colors, carpets, resilient flooring, tile, etc. But these are representative of these materials that we've gone through with staff and reviewed over the past sort of few months. Some of the, or all of the boards do have representation of what are possibilities for fabrics that may be included in the furniture package. Those fabrics have not been selected yet. They're just representative and reminders that we can bring additional color or patterns or textures into the spaces in that manner, in addition to the finishes as well. Moving over to the natatorium, this is the leisure pool. So in here we have a zero depth entry, sort of an activity zone, a social zone, a lazy river, and then the ode to a warm or a spa, which is a warm water jetted seating area, all in one body of water, as well as a nice body slide. So it runs outside and comes into a run out there over on the left. And then in the gray is all the back of house stuff, plenty of space, current technology, and set up so it's easy to maintain for staff as well. This is a space, this is a view inside the leisure pool as you walk in from the locker rooms, please.
Quick question about the pool area. Are there going to be any, I don't see it documented on here, is there any going to be seating inside the pool area for
Yes.
like moms who have to hang out there for all?
So in the social zone, if you see sort of the turquoise
Yeah.
on the bottom, that's a seat, and then there's
Oh, okay.
seating in the warm water jetted
No, on the
area as
side.
well.
So like,
Oh, around
for
the deck.
example, yeah, like is there going to be, like if you think about the Apex Center,
Uh-huh.
they have like even like tables
Yes.
and picnic tables and stuff, both on the inside and outside.
Yep.
Is there going to be space for that?
Yeah, there will be space around, there's a dark line around the sort of the edge of the pool, that's just a deck drain.
Okay.
So the light area between the wall and the water is all deck space.
Okay.
So there will be opportunities for seating and tables,
Okay.
as you would expect.
Right, thanks.
Yeah. And then something that we didn't mention, the sun deck has direct access up for exterior seating as well. So again, this is a view. You can see in this image the sort of where the deck is, and then that extends all around. The rails on the slide tower are shown dark on purpose, so you can see them. They will not be a black rail. But it's just a way, it's just so you can see what's happening in the background there, and that's where you'll go up to the top of the slide and come down, and then that sort of dark black bar on the bottom left is the slide run out. So that all those colors will be selected to be a color, and there won't be this ominous black thing in the background. So moving down into the lap pool, still remains a 6-lane pool. We still have deck area around, full deck area around the perimeter of the pool with tip and roll bleachers there on the bottom right of the image. The pool storage room there on the left serves both pools and is significantly larger than what's available currently, so it should offer a good amount of space. And then between or right above pool storage, lifeguard room, and aquatics office for minor first aid and storage, etc. So this would be an image when you come out of the locker rooms into the lap pool. There's currently only 2 lanes shown on this image, but you get the idea of the tip and rolls on the right, and then sort of the starting platforms in the far end there. And again, these are this is a combination of both for the natatorium, which is both pools and the gymnasium. But these are some representative images of the materials that were selected for those spaces. Moving over, if you remember the overall plan and to the right, we've retained the separate sex men's and women's locker rooms with restrooms, showers, lockers, prep areas, etc. And then above that, we have universal changing rooms / family locker rooms. So we ended up with 6 individual cabanas. Each of them have a toilet, a sink, a shower, and a nice seating area for all parties. And then directly to the right of that, there's that's where the elevator, you enter the elevator to go up to the fitness area upstairs, and a nursing room directly below that. Everything below that got cut off is all utility space, so back building storage, mechanical rooms, electrical rooms, fire, water, etc. all come in sort of down below that. And then this is just a quick image of what the gymnasium would look like. So those doors that you see right there are the main hallway, and when you come in, the track is above. There's a stair on the far side of the gymnasium that allows you to obviously get up and down. And then this gymnasium behind you also will hold the judo mats on a motorized lift. If you go upstairs from directly from the lobby, you'll pop up right there in that, if you can see that, in that white square here, these are stairs. There's the elevator. You'll pop up sort of in the middle of the track, and that's purposeful, so you never have to cross the track to get to any of the spaces. On the top of the plan is where we have all of our sort of cardio-based fitness equipment. And as you move down, the fitness office, a nice storage room, and then a wellness room. And then on the bottom left of the plan is where we've situated the sort of more heavier weight equipment, purposefully to get it away from the lobby and to get it over the lower spaces that are mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and not affect the spaces below. On the right side of the plan are 2 aerobics rooms. Those are multifunction, obviously. Spinning, yoga, all those types of programs would happen in there. This is a view, the main entrance to the rec center is on your right. As you come up and you look down across the track, you start to see the fitness areas. Those windows on the right will be a nice view straight across towards the festival lawn. Get great morning light, and then to your left would be the elevator core, and then you progress back towards the aerobics rooms as well. Again, these are materials that were selected, paint colors, flooring, etc., for those spaces upstairs. If we move over to the community theater senior side on the right, again, we moved upstairs in this plan. The main entrance we've kept segregated on purpose. Once you get into that, as you progress through those first set of doors there into that vestibule, you have a sort of choice to go left, right, or straight. Right takes you to the senior center, left takes you to the community rooms on the bottom, and straight takes you directly into the theater lobby itself. We've tried to create some identity there, so it's easy to find your way around, and you're not, if there's a function going on in the theater, you're not walking through those guests to get to the community rooms as well. And the seniors have their own sort of entrance and progression into the building. The space up on the top left of the plan is where we've designated for administration. So staff will sit up there. There's a conference room, break room. That's where all the administration sort of will happen. And then if you move straight into the building is where you'll see a bar and the sort of ticketing counter for the theater itself. Down on the plan from where we entered, we have the ability to use these community rooms. There's space there's one space with 2 movable partitions, so you can split it into 3 spaces, 2, or leave it as 1 large space. All are individually outfitted with audiovisual equipment for presentations or parties. They can function as 2 spaces or 1, and they're set up appropriately. On the right in the purple there, the catering kitchen or warming kitchen. If you remember, this is set up to be just a warming kitchen, not food preparation. It's not set up for that. It's not licensed for that. And then individual restrooms sort of for this side or sector of the building as well. Each of the multi-purpose rooms have their own storage, their own little sink and coffee bar, so they're all set up to be self-sustaining. And then on the bottom, facing west, is a little outdoor patio that anybody who's using the community rooms would be able to use as well. So this is a view in the southernmost community room. What you see is a countertop situation with a roll-up door into the warming kitchen. So we've tried to set up that counter very much like the senior center counter is upstairs in the current rec center. So you have the ability to directly interact with the warming kitchen if the need be. But you can also close it down and use the warming kitchen separately as well. These are some materials that we've selected for those community rooms, paints and flooring. Moving up into the administration space, it's fairly straightforward. We have a bank of flexible open workstations, again, a break area, private offices, and then the conference room there for staff meetings. And then the stair that you see in this plan here goes down to the lower level or the downstairs public lobby of the theater as well, which we'll see here in a second. You remember the senior center here right off the main entrance, so they get their own sort of entrance into their lounge. You have a welcome desk and an office for the administrator there. The senior lounge is set up very much like a library. It has more comfortable seating, et cetera. And then as you move into the multi-activity room, it's shown with a lot of tables and chairs, but it really truly is intended to be multi-purpose. So they can do any activities in that space. And then all the way at the top of the plan is an outdoor patio. We've set all this up. You see there's stairs on the senior patio, but once you're inside the building, it's a level surface at the front door and all the way in through the senior patio. It's all level. There's no stairs. You don't have to use those stairs unless you want to, or there's some reason you're leaving once you get there.
I just wondered, is it possible to make that a ramp? I mean, just thinking of the convenience of people in walkers and
The intent for that patio is to be used by patrons who've come to the building first. We can make it a ramp.
Also like for fires, escape from a fire or something. I'm just
Right.
wondering. I'm assuming there must be an expense difference or something.
Yeah,
right?
and it does take up a little more or a good amount of real estate to sort of get it down at a accessible slope. It's possible.
That's just a consideration. I'm just thinking of what, people might want.
Yeah, sure. So moving on the directly next to that is another bank of restrooms on the other side of the lobby, both serve theater and these spaces as well. This is a view inside, so what you see beyond through those windows is the main vestibule into this entrance, and then progressing through, this would be the senior lounge. That would be the administration sort of for the senior center there itself. Some area for books. They have a nice healthy library now, so we're accommodating those as well. So that's what you see sort of there. And then again, these are finishes that we've selected for this space. And then moving into the theater, again, we're still upstairs. You see the bar, the box office there right inside the lobby. There's 2 entrances at the upper level of the theater, right in through the lobby. And you'll see a little bit later, but that theater slopes down as well towards the stage.
Okay, I'm gonna, sorry.
No, please.
I'm gonna interrupt you again. I'm going back to the slide of walking into the senior center area, and I'm just gonna be an advocate for seniors here. The bookshelves they have right now are a lot bigger. There's more books than what you're showing there, and
Right.
that requires people to bend over. I'm just saying it might be a little awkward if that's the only place that you're gonna put books for people to check out.
So it is not.
Okay.
So those are the ones that are built in. So a lot of what Daniel's is talking about or is referencing are millwork, things that are attached to the building or built as part of the building. There's also other considerations that we have put in that we will work with. One of the dates back here, as we do our FF&E, our furniture, fixtures, and equipment purchases. So one of the things we tried to do is maintain flat wall space with just that in mind. And we are looking at, so there's some wall space back here and then along this corner that allowed for those taller bookshelves. And that was one of our concerns as well. We want to make sure people can reach things kind of in this
Right,
range.
right.
They can't be too low and they can't be too high. And so that's definitely something that's
Great.
taken into consideration. But that lower shelf back here, and I think as we went, you'll see some of it is actually covered because it was more storage and such.
On one side it looks
We kind of
covered.
backed off on the bookshelves in that space,
Right.
knowing that we needed some easy
Great.
access right here for people to see and to grab.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Sorry, didn't mean to
No, please.
steal that from you. And Chris did sneak in when you're ready.
Yeah.
So we went through there.
Excuse me.
Yes.
I was under the impression that the senior center was on the first floor, at the very beginning. Now we're on the second floor?
Just like this building is, the entrance to the senior center is, while it is on the upper level, it is a straight level access on grade.
That happens to be the second floor of the facility?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Correct. Yeah, it hasn't moved since you saw it last. But if you think about it as in you're walking in the front doors of City Hall as it sits right now, for most people, they don't realize they're on the second floor. This will take advantage of the topography in the same way. So you're gonna walk in on the second floor, but on that entire half of the building, it really is the main floor, and you're gonna go down into the basement versus up into a second floor.
Thank you.
So these are all of the sort of theater back of house spaces. Maybe I'll hand it over to Chris since he's here now.
Sorry to give you all the excitement. Mayor, council members, great to be here. I told Amanda I had not realized that you all had moved to Wyoming anytime recently. It just took a long time to get here tonight. The theater plans and finishes are very consistent with what you've seen before. So here at the lower level, we're at the upper level. There we go. These are the public spaces, so this is the lobby where you come in, and we're utilizing the 2 different floor levels to separate the audience from the performers and the technicians at the lower floor level. So as Daniel indicated, we've got entrances on both sides up here at the top, and then between those 2 is a control booth so that your technicians can run the performance from a sound and lighting standpoint from a single location. The audience then walks downstairs on the 2 sides to reach the cross aisle. Remind me where my...
Forward actually is forward.
Forward is forward, but there we go. So the cross aisle is here, and that is at the level of the lower floor level. So we'll go downstairs. and look at the support spaces. I'm going to start at the loading dock here at the bottom center. So all the materials and people come in here. Here's our stage door for delivery to the dressing rooms and rehearsal space. As we go clockwise, materials come to the scene shop. The theater stage itself is surrounded by hallways that help to isolate the performance space from noise from any of the surrounding areas. As we come around, on the top, there's a door that allows performers to get to the stage left side of the stage. As we come around, we reach a couple of support spaces for AV and lighting equipment. We have a universal restroom at this level so that patrons who are at the cross aisle at intermission can get to an accessible toilet quickly and easily without having to go back to the main lobby. And then as we come further around, boy, that is forward. As we come around, we have our sound and light lock or vestibule to get into the cross aisle and our stairs back up to the lobby. As we continue around clockwise, we reach our costume shop, 2 dressing rooms and green room space, so that's a consolidated suite of spaces along with the restrooms, and then come around to our rehearsal room so that we make a continuous loop that particularly for the youth theater enables us to keep performers and technicians within a very controlled zone, easy for circulation. But we do have a stair here at the stage door that allows them to get upstairs to the community rooms in case we're using the community rooms as warm-up space or as camp space, so we can have a good backstage connection that is optional. This gives you an indication of vertically, it's a section cut through the building, a slice through the building that shows you the lobby up at the upper level along with the senior center. And then you can see our dressing room and hallway spaces, the steep circulation space for the stairs in the upper level of seating, the lower level of seating, and that gives you an indication of just how the theater is a connection between the upper and lower levels, but has, importantly, at the very top of the theater, a catwalk system for access to lighting that your technicians don't currently have, much safer for operations. These 3-dimensional views give you a sense of what we're trying to achieve in terms of the finish of the theater, elegant, simple. The side walls may look like bookshelves, they are not. Those are acoustical reflectors in wood to create both a warm visual appearance. We will be lighting those with accent lighting, but also to bring the sound back into the seats. The seats are shown in a red vinyl, a nice classy color that gives you a clear, warm visual appearance when you come in, but when the lights go down, enables the audience chamber to recede from view so that your focus is clearly on the stage. This is looking directly across the cross aisle from one side to the other, gives you a sense on the left of the expanse of the stage and the clear rectangular footprint of it. Up above, you have the acoustical reflectors and the catwalks, and then the steeper rear section of seating. Before we go out to the lobby, I'd happily respond to any questions about the theater space. Great. I'll give it back to Daniel.
So we are back out into the lobby. So once you enter those double sets of doors, this is sort of what you'll see. It's an ode to the architecture that's happening on the outside of the building. This is the box office and what will be the bar. So to the right over there is where you'll head towards admin and the restrooms and the elevator. And then behind you on the left will be the community rooms areas. Again, these are the theater lobby, sort of box office area. Materials, and then in the top right there are some fabrics that are yet to be explored when we start looking at the furniture.
Right. I gave you a little preview when we did the last month's update, but we are really excited to be able to give you an update on the atrium sculpture. The committee, which was made up of Northglenn Arts and Humanities Foundation members, a youth commissioner, a senior organization member, as well as city staff, reviewed the over 100 submissions. Of those, about 37, I believe, were deemed qualified, which we were really excited about that number because it said we got not just quantity of submissions, but really high quality submissions. Of those, the committee met for the first time and narrowed it down to kind of a top 10. And then from there, during that meeting, got it down to a top 4, which was a really challenging conversation. Joyce was there and is a part of that, just because we had a lot of really diverse talent in front of us. And sometimes it's really hard to make a recommendation when you're seeing two really great things that are really different from one another. But we did interviews with what ended up being the top 3 candidates. And of those, Mark Ailing was selected. He has some local roots. He graduated from high school and in Fort Collins and attended CSU, and now is living in Florida. His work, he had one of the largest, his pieces were very diverse from one another, very different from one another, in that he works in metals, he works in glass, he works in acrylics, and he has wood pieces. So that ability to really create a piece that fits, it's commissioned for our lobby, not just he has a great piece, but it really fits us, our space, and what the community is looking for. So that's the 4 images here. These are just samples of some of his really large scale work. And you can see that this one and this one were both, one of the things we were looking for was a sculptor who had really great experience suspending large scale work, suspending it, lighting it, whether that's integral to the piece or lighting the piece and using that piece to kind of bounce that light off and create kind of a feeling in that space. And he absolutely had that. And then had some other really just large scale pieces. This one's in an aquarium. You can't tell when it's itty bitty. This is made up of like hundreds and hundreds of little teeny tiny fish that are circling down the hallway of this aquarium space. This one is, I believe it's called Cutthroat Trout. It is also made up of many, many smaller pieces. So it's made up of little cutthroat trout that are all pieced together to form this giant one. So he had a really great portfolio. He had a great interview, appeared professional, prepared, and really able to take this project on and run with it. So he's been extremely responsive thus far, and we're excited to be working with him. So that part is exciting. Just as a quick reminder, I know I've said this before, but this portion is fully grant funded through the SCFD and the Arts and Humanities Foundation. That portion of the budget, and I'll cover that in a slide here, stays with the Northglenn Arts and Humanities Foundation. So you won't see that $100,000 added to our budget because those works will be paid directly by the foundation, but I'll still go through them here as we move forward. Any questions on our artist?
Do we know what the sculpture's going to be?
We don't.
Okay.
It is a fully commissioned piece, and so that will be the first step, is he will actually work with the Arts and Humanities Foundation or a committee from the Arts and Humanities Foundation to start talking about what is that identity, what is that piece starting to evolve as, what are the materials, and then public process from there.
Great.
These images I'm not going to spend much time on because you have seen them all. I don't believe they have changed at all, but this is the view from down Memorial Parkway, comes in here, in through the front doors. Over here on the south entrance, so right here at grade, we've got that entry into the theater lobby, and then on each side of the vestibule into the community rooms over here and to the senior center over here. And this is that patio, and this is that staired area, and it is, I believe, 2 stairs. And we can look at whether it makes sense to ramp that. Mm-hmm. The fire district is reviewing all of the plans, so they will absolutely tell us if they have any concerns about exiting or would like us to enhance that in any way.
Okay, great.
They do not hesitate to tell us. And then this is kind of that placeholder for that large sculptural element. So it won't just be the lights as you see them here, but just trying to create that impression that you'll be able to see that through this large glass window over that lobby space. All right. Any questions on the building, the architecture, the finishes, or kind of where we're at with design? I'm going to jump then into the maybe not quite as fun part, but the important part, which is the budget and where we're headed over the next couple of weeks, or where we intend to be headed over the next couple of weeks. So this first slide is just a budget review. So just as a reminder, we started with a budget that was $42 million for the facility and $11 million in infrastructure for a total of $53 million. We did receive additional funding from Adams County Open Space in the amount of $1.5 million, which allowed us to do things like add those outdoor patios at the senior center, at the natatorium, and much of the enhancement to the landscaping at the Memorial Parkway and Veterans Memorial Plaza and the Festival Lawn. That is added to the city budget, and it is a reimbursement grant, so that's been accepted. Then we have the SCFD money. That's the $100,000 that'll go straight through the NHF. They'll pay those invoices directly. They are also funding $25,000 from NAHF funds. And then the two that are grayed out there, because they're in process, their intention is to raise $10,000 in donations over the course of the year, which they're already well on their way to doing. And then we have an outstanding grant for an additional $2,500 from Colorado Creative Industries. So those, again, will go on the arts and humanities side to pay for the sculpture. So our current approved budget, the whole thing is 54.
Amanda,
Yes.
just a question.
Yes.
On the Colorado Creative, you've got this as pending. Is it?
We're still waiting to hear back on that one. I'd have to check with Michael what the timeline is.
Thank you.
But it has been submitted.
Right.
So total overall budget is the $54,625,000. That's what's been secured to date. Of that, $54,500,000 is on the city side, and $125,000 is on the arts and humanities side for the sculpture. As we move into then the proposed FGMP. So this is, and I'll try not to put too many numbers up here, and the basis for this slide is to identify that we had at IGMP, the initial guaranteed maximum price, a price that the contractor, FCI, says they can build the building for as it's designed at the end of the DD phase, or the design development phase, which was that second phase of design. So we went from SD, or schematic design, into design development. So we have additional refinement. Between that design development and construction development, there's additional refinement, right? We add things, we change things, we modify things through that process. So the IGMP is developed at the end of the design development phase. If you might recall, once we got those numbers in from FCI at the end of the design development phase, there was some back and forth between staff and the design team and the contractor to bring those numbers, make sure we stayed time. We started looking at those details. Why is it higher? What's the explanation? Which portion of those are truly things that were added after the IGMP was done? What pricing came in that didn't match what the expectations were? Categories. And these are details that start to emerge during that construction design phase. So that $800,000, the type of scope modifications that includes are things like changing a portion of the wood grain siding to a metal siding product that was significantly less expensive per square foot. Now, and I should have pulled an image up here for you, just for reference. That's on the north side of the building. It's outside of kind of the main public view. It's going to have the detention pond around it. So we felt it was okay to kind of back up on a more expensive product that came in higher than we expected. And so creating less of that more expensive product, replacing it with a still durable, still long-standing product that comes in at a lower price per square foot. Next item on that list was changing from a concealed fastener on that wood look product, or that wood panel product, to an exposed fastener. Again, those are the types of details that come out during that construction design phase. It's a heck of a lot more expensive for those fasteners to be used on a system that they're not visible. Changing them to a visible fastener doesn't change the longevity of the product, doesn't change the function of the product, but had a significant cost savings. Some of the others were the site FGMP allowance. We're far enough along on the site portion to be able to identify that there was a chunk of an allowance in there that FCI could turn back into the project for the next phase. And then some revisions, just general revisions to final site materials, or final materials and finish selections, and the same on the exterior portion of the building and the site. There is opportunity as we go through this project, if we have there's contingencies built in. If we haven't spent some of those contingencies, some of these things don't have kind of an expiration date till quite a ways into the project. Landscaping is a good example of that. Being able to add to that as we get closer is absolutely doable. We can add that back in if the contingencies haven't been used on things. We have to use them to up to that time. The next section is the remaining $400,000. Now, these are items that after those conversations, we determined these really truly were added after the design development phase and after the IGMP was developed, and not necessarily the responsibility of FCI to be able to include within that original IGMP. Those items were a concrete tower at the slide, and that's a longevity piece, not using a steel tower. It just hadn't been detailed based on the point we were at design development. Access control doors, these guys will tell you I asked for access control on more doors than they expected, and they tried talking me down, and I kept adding more in. But we want to make sure that things like people can use a pass card to enter a door, and we don't end up having multiple staff, especially part-time staff or seasonal staff, where it's like there's this one door they need to go through, and we end up issuing them a key for it. We can change access control electronically. That key we have to get back from somebody, or it's really expensive to make that modification. The basement storage area, this was one we talked about early in the process. We had it in, and then we took it out during design development, and we, based on kind of where things were headed, had reinstated that during the construction document phase. Outdoor play area enhancements, those came in higher than what we expected. They were an allowance at the point of design development. As you start picking pieces that meet licensing standards, things like permanent shade, where we had intended to use trees as shade, but that didn't meet even though the trees meet the licensing standard, they don't meet it when they're not fully grown. And rather than doing a temporary fix, we did decide to put in a permanent shade structure on that outdoor children's playground that fully meets the expectations of state licensing standards. Some of the parkway enhancements, whether that be, and most of that was smaller details around parkway enhancements. Some of that was landscaping. Staff really would rather see pop-up heads versus drip heads because they can easily identify if a portion of the system isn't working, rather than noticing that after the plant has died. And that had a higher cost associated with it. Some of the theater finishes and millwork, we had some additional millwork that was identified during the construction design document phase. And then the pool sound system, we had kind of gone to a lower cost one. Turns out it's not warranted in a pool space because getting a sound system or electronics to withstand the test of any sort of time, sometimes weeks, in a pool setting is a little challenging. So felt it was important to maintain that higher grade sound system that's intended for an aquatics area and warranted as such. So where does that leave us? That leaves us at a budget that is still exactly what we said it would be. So the original budget here on this left was that original $53 million. As we come into the center column, we increased that to $54,500,000 with the $1.5 million in grant funding. And as you come over here, you can see the bottom line is still the $54,500,000. We've readjusted based on where we're at in the process. As we get further along, we further refine the details in the project. We also further refine the budget. So you can see some of those dollars have shifted around, but it accommodates the FGMP as we've proposed it to you, as well as all the appropriate contingencies, the soft costs for FF&E, as well as any costs we've incurred on the design side to date. And then our site construction cost, which is a more actual number based on your previously issued FGMP. I threw a lot of numbers at you. Are there questions on that piece before I move forward?
So I do have a question.
Yes.
About 2 slides back. where you kind of interchanged some of your scope modifications.
Mm-hmm.
When you did that, what did that do to the integrity of the building? I mean, is it changed in any way? I mean, can you see, the fasteners that are exposed,
So
as an
it
example?
changed, if you ask, so BRS designed that space to be a very linear, you can't see it, it all is pretty seamless. It does change the look of that space in that you can see a rivet on each of the panels, but it does not change the integrity of the product. So it doesn't decrease its useful life, it doesn't make it a lower quality product, but it does look a little different in that you can see those rivets on each corner of the board.
And that was just an example, but such as the wood grain siding versus the metal panel. I mean, I kind of like wood grain
So do we.
myself, you know? So I'm just wondering,
It is
what does
60
that do to the building?
So that came in at about, I believe, $65 per square foot.
Right.
We had assumed it would come in closer to 45 initially, a square foot. That metal paneling on that small, and it's a fairly small section of the building, came in $25 a square foot. So a pretty significant shift. So by decreasing it in one smaller portion, it helps make up for the larger space that you can see from the public access points, being able to use the more expensive product.
Can you tell me what the size is? You're telling me smaller size.
Yep, let me go back to it. I'm gonna go all the way back.
You know, you can give me even a guesstimate, you know, but it's kind of like.
If anybody behind me has a guesstimate on square footage. Oh.
That's not very small.
It is an 85,000 square foot building.
I understand that.
Okay.
We had a little conversation about percentages earlier today.
I'm gonna go to, let's see, where would be a good one? I went too far. Okay, so as you look at the building, much of this face and this face have that wood grain product on it. This piece right here that bumps out from the building also had the wood grain product on it. The metal siding would be on this portion here. This is where the detention pond sits back in this area.
Okay,
And the path comes back this way.
all right. So it's basically hidden also.
You'll see it, particularly until landscaping.
Right.
And don't get me wrong, the metal paneling isn't just we'll just pick something up
Oh, no,
and slap it on. It's still intended to be a visually attractive product, but it is a different product than what you'll see on the rest of the building and is a lower cost.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
No?
Okay. I'm gonna go all the way back through, so if you see something really fast. There may be an easier way to get to the end, but I don't know it, so. Okay, so public input. We have done a good chunk of that. We have one outstanding piece, which is the senior users and furniture. We'll do that as we start to, once we select a vendor so that we can have the actual pieces here for people to sit in and touch and feel and give us their input on. But we just are wrapping up the children and families in the indoor play theme. So the last day to vote is today, so it's not final, but there's a pretty good result. So we have received about 250 official votes on the system. Of those, there's a pretty clear leader right now, and it is the space theme. Next, down from there, there's about a 35, 40 vote gap. So it's a pretty significant gap. Next one is the prehistoric theme.
Yeah.
And then third, and this differed from kind of the Facebook comments versus the votes. Jungle came in third. I know.
Yeah, that one is very.
And Under the Sea came in last. So didn't quite match some of the comments that people had made. So we will likely be moving forward with space unless there's a huge surge of votes tonight for one of the others. but we're excited about that. So it really brings us to the next steps. And like I mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, we're really looking for consensus tonight that the FGMP, as we presented it to you, that you're comfortable with that, and you're comfortable with us bringing a contract with FCI, or a contract addendum with FCI forward to you 2 weeks from tonight. That will be the last major addendum to their contract that will allow them to really continue and finish things out. From there, we will then have a building permit issued, hopefully here in early March, and they will be ready to continue on and stay on track.
It's great.
So exciting.
Yes.
All right.
So exciting. Thank you to everyone who presented tonight. It's just amazing.
Thank you.
I can't wait.
All right, we will see you here in 2 weeks with an FGMP.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
So wrapping up our study session, are there any other items for the council? Okay, hearing none, we are adjourned. We'll let everyone take a 3 to 5 minute break. Take care of business and we will start.
I don't think they had the kids voting on the space issues.
I will now call to order the regular city council meeting of February 10th, 2020. The city clerk, please call the roll.
Mayor Lighty,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Wolford,
Here.
Councilmember Whitkovich,
Here.
Councilmember Peterson,
Here.
Councilmember Downing,
Here.
Councilmember Brown is absent, Councilmember Goff,
Here.
Councilmember Duran Malika,
Here.
Councilmember Escabel.
Here.
Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. City Manager Guy, are there any responses to citizen inquiry?
There are two this evening, Mayor and Council. The first response that I'd like to provide is more of an update for council and the community as a whole in regards to Kiwanis Pool project. We, following the update that was provided to council several weeks ago, we do have an updated notice to proceed issued for the work with a projected project completion date of April 15th. Of this year. The contractor started demo on the concrete splash pad that's to be replaced last week. However, that's been impacted as a result of the weather that we're experiencing. However, as weather clears up, that work will continue. So I wanted to let you know, as well as the community know, that work is moving forward with that particular project. The second piece this evening is in response to our CMR stats for January. We received 116 requests in the month of January. 104 of those were closed. The primary method used was via the mobile app with 53% usage. Website was 34%, and then 13% of those requests were employee entered. The most frequently requested topics included graffiti, general code enforcement concerns, abandoned vehicles on public property, and then requests for new trash carts. 64 of those requests were closed out within 3 days, 26 between 4 and 7 days. 13 of those requests were closed out between 8 and 11 days, and then 5 requests required 12 or more days of action. In terms of the satisfaction results, we received 61 responses, and overall, those responses were either superior, exceed, good, or met customer expectations. So one of the things I wanted to note, is once my assistant to the city manager is on board at the end of this month, as I mentioned previously, Rupa will be starting on February 27th. One of the projects she's going to have is to take this verbal report that I've been providing to council and put it in a visual presentation format. And then I'll have her providing these updates to council on a monthly basis. So any questions?
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Agenda additions and deletions. So the first thing is we had a proclamation honoring the 100th anniversary of the League of Women Voters. We're moving that to February 24th so that members of the Adams County chapter can receive the proclamation. Are there any other additions or deletions? Okay. So we have an interview for the Citizens Affairs Board. Brian Waselko, is he here? Yes? Did I say your last name correctly?
Yes.
Okay, come on forward. Hello, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good.
Good.
Thanks for coming.
Absolutely.
So it sounds like you attended the CAB meeting on February 5th, and the board recommends your appointment as the Ward 4 representative. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're interested?
Sure, absolutely. So I moved here in 2003 from Pennsylvania. Lived in the city of Northglenn for my entire time here in Colorado, so about 17 years. And right now, I just left Louisville Fire Department, and I'm working down at South Metro Fire as a paramedic. Been down there for almost a year now. What else? I have 2 kids, married, and live about a block from the high school. So both my kids walk to the high school, and growing up living in that neighborhood over there, a lot of stuff goes on because we have a lot of elderly neighbors, so we keep an eye out for each other. And I like to be part of the solution as opposed to part of the problem, and keep an eye out for everybody. So I felt like this would be a good way to volunteer, give back to the city, and kind of learn some new things about the city, and kind of keep an eye on what's going on.
Council have any questions for Brian?
Hi, Brian. Thank you so much for applying.
Absolutely.
So have you thought at all about what issues or things that you might want to work on, or ideas that you maybe have for the Citizens Affairs Advisory Board?
I don't have a lot of things to work on. One of the big things, the last thing I had with the interaction with the city actually was the parking and speeding last year. So that was a big thing because, like I said, the age in my neighborhood is kind of towards the higher side. So I like to watch out and keep an eye on what's going on. And a lot of times my neighbors will call me and say, hey, do you have somebody parked in front of your house? And I'm like, no, I'm at work. So we kind of keep an eye on each other. In the neighborhood with the trash and everything. But I don't know what the school did this year, but there's been a lot less parking issues going on. I know some of the neighbors still have speeding issues. So that's another thing that wanted to keep an eye on. But I'm kind of coming in with an open mind to it, and whatever's brought to us, make sure it gets to the right place.
Great, thank you. And then last question, how did you hear about this opening on the board?
I was looking around the website. I was actually researching the fire board for North Metro. Because coming from Louisville, I was the president of the union up there for the firefighters, and had a lot of dealings with the city for codes, and dealing with the board and the city council for measures that we had to do in the city up there. So I kind of wanted to transfer that down to here. And was just poking around one day and saw that, there's an opening. Oh, it's my ward. Oh, all right, well, here I am. So it was one of those kind of things that progressed quickly.
Thank you for applying.
Absolutely.
I just want to say thank you, Brian, for stepping up.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
it very
I look
much.
forward to maybe helping out a little and making things a little easier and getting some problems solved, hopefully.
And I want to say as well, just taking a look at your resume here and your application, especially in the week that we've had, volunteering for the snow shoveling brigade.
Oh, yep.
And it's just such an important thing, especially with elderly neighbors and just even friends who are out of town.
Yes.
And that's what it's all about, is lending a hand. And so I just want to tip my hat to you for that real basic service, but it goes a long way.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate
Yeah.
that.
Well, thank you, Brian. Welcome aboard.
Oh, excellent.
We're happy to have you.
All right. Thank you so
Have
much.
a good evening. Thanks for coming tonight.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to do 3 proclamations, so I invite council to join me down front. Okay, so February is Black History Month, so the first one, we are going to recognize that. Whereas Black History Month serves as a celebration of African American achievements as well as a time to recognize the crucial role African Americans have played in U.S. history. And whereas Black History Month is a time to pay tribute to the generations of Black Americans who struggled through adversity to achieve full citizenship in our society. And whereas through bravery, perseverance, faith, and resolve, and often in the face of incredible prejudice and hardship, African Americans have enhanced and advanced every aspect of American life. And whereas throughout our nation's history, African Americans from all walks of life have offered their talents to the betterment of American society. Through their extraordinary accomplishments, these individuals helped bring our nation closer to fulfilling its founding ideas while working to pursue equal rights. And whereas the theme of this year's observance, African Americans and the Vote, coincides with the 150th anniversary of the 15th Amendment, which gave African American men the right to vote. This amendment to the Constitution, ratified in 1870, prohibits the government from denying a citizen's right to vote based on race, color, or previous condition of servitude. And whereas the City of Northglenn celebrates diversity and is proud to honor the history and contributions of African Americans in our community throughout our state and our nation. Now, therefore, I, Meredith Leidy, Mayor of the City of Northglenn, Colorado, do hereby proclaim February 2020 as Black History Month in the City of Northglenn and encourage all individuals to take advantage of opportunities to educate themselves and raise awareness and appreciation of the history and contributions of African Americans. Dated at Northglenn, Colorado, this 10th day of February 2020. Okay, our next one, we actually have a guest that's going to be receiving our proclamation, Dr. Kelly Lewis, Medical Director of SCL Health. Come on up. So we also, it's on my notes. What is it?
February 3rd. February 3rd is female physician day.
Well, we're happy to have you, but there was another celebration in February, and I wanted to say it right. It's like National Female Physician Day. Come on forward. Join us right up there. So we were happy to have you. We wanted to make sure we highlighted that as well. So today's proclamation. Whereas heart disease, including coronary heart disease, hypertension, and stroke, remains the #1 cause of death in the United States, and whereas cardiovascular disease is the #1 killer of women, causing 1 in 3 deaths each year. And whereas approximately every 40 seconds, an American will have a heart attack, and heart disease kills more people than all forms of cancer combined. And whereas evidence-based research has identified several critical risk factors that contribute to heart disease, including elevated blood pressure and cholesterol, physical inactivity, excess body weight, high salt intake, smoking, age, and family history. And whereas, while some risk factors are unchangeable, most are avoidable with behavior modification and lifestyle changes such as eating a healthy diet, moderating alcohol consumption, exercising regularly, and avoiding smoking. And whereas American Heart Month reinforces the importance of heart health and the need for more research, with a reminder to get families, friends, and communities involved in taking the necessary measures to lead a heart-healthy lifestyle. Now, therefore, I, Meredith Leidy, Mayor of the City of Northglenn, Colorado, do hereby proclaim February 2020 as American Heart Month in the City of Northglenn and urge all individuals to take decisive action to control their health and support and motivate friends and family members in their efforts to improve cardiovascular health. Dated at Northglenn, Colorado, this 10th day of February 2020. But would you like to say anything? Do you want to add to it?
I just want to say thank you for the acknowledgement. It's a pleasure to be here. SCL Health has a long history of association with the American Heart Association and such that all of our major campuses have attained a level of accreditation with the AHA of Chest Pain Center, where we have reached and maintained a level of excellence for heart care. So to acknowledge this today is a great honor. And I would be amiss if I didn't say while I was here how pleased we are to be in the City of Northglenn. You have been collaborative and amazing partners for us over the last 3 years. Your police department has taken us under their wing. We love them, and we're just really, really pleased to be part of the community.
If you want to do it now, I'll take it.
Yeah, go ahead. Do you want to join us for a photo?
What is it?
We're going to take a photo with you.
Oh.
For that one.
I got promoted. Let's hope they're good.
Okay, our next proclamation, we are welcoming Dr. Tristan Collins from Bluebird Family Dentistry. Come on up. Thank you for being here. All right. So the third proclamation. Whereas the future is, to a large measure, dependent on the good health of our families. And whereas cavities are one of the most common chronic conditions of childhood in the United States, and untreated cavities can cause pain and infections that may lead to problems with eating, speaking, playing, and learning. And whereas good oral health contributes to better nutrition, improved ability to concentrate, and improved school attendance. And whereas a healthy smile is important to a child's self-esteem, and with proper care, a balanced diet that limits sugary beverages and snacks, and regular dental visits to prevent and treat oral disease, children's teeth can remain healthy and strong. And whereas National Children's Dental Health Month is celebrated in February each year in order to raise awareness about the importance of good oral health. And whereas good dental habits and attitudes established at an early age are critical in maintaining good oral health throughout life. Now, therefore, I, Meredith Leidy, Mayor of the City of Northglenn, Colorado, do hereby proclaim February 2020 as National Children's Dental Health Month in the City of Northglenn, and urge all residents to join in this observance by teaching and reinforcing good oral health and dental habits to the children in their lives. Dated at Northglenn, Colorado, this 10th day of February 2020. So Dr. Collins, do you have any additional comments?
I just want to say thank you and how grateful and honored Bluebird Family Dentistry is for receiving this award. Obviously, we're just glad that we have the ability to help any person or child in need and make them have that, or let them achieve that happy and healthy smile they deserve. So, thank you.
Catherine, can you scooch in just a little bit more?
Okay.
Perfect. Everybody smile. I'll do Diana's 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Great. I think we're good. Thank you. Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you.
Make a noise. So thank you for that. Well, not an official proclamation. I did want to thank city staff. I had shared that February is filled with reasons to focus on health and healthy teeth and all of these great things. It also can sometimes be sort of, you can get a post-holiday dip, and with all the snow and the weather, sometimes it's just fun to be silly. And so I pointed out that today was also National Umbrella Day. And so our city staff did a great job of helping us celebrate that. It really is just to be silly. And then they added a healthy piece and a red for February strawberry treat. So thank you for that. And, you know, we just have to, just a little reminder to have fun and be silly and something to make you smile. So thank you for that.
Mayor, I'd just like to acknowledge Susan Baca, Executive Assistant, that pulled that together.
Excellent. Excellent. So public invited to be heard. John, you coming up? I see your T-shirt. Who are you representing today?
Good evening, Mayor Leidy, Mayor Pro Tem Wilford, members of council, and staff. It's always nice to be back visiting my friends and neighbors here in Northglenn. So I'm John Algie. I'm the committee chair of our food drive for the Rotary Club of Northglenn Thornton. And we will be kicking off in earnest next Tuesday. So, but I did talk to Economic Development Director Debbie Tuttle, and we gave each other some advice, and I told her, well, it's a rolling kickoff, let's put it that way. So, and I understand that they have some very unique signs for Northglenn centric, so I'm very excited to see what they look like, and maybe we could do that for Thornton in future years. So we'll definitely have to take that under advisement. So, but in any case, everything will be started next Tuesday. We'll be fully go. I talked to Patrick Salgado. He is the membership director of the Costco in Thornton. So we have our date locked down for our shopping day, which will be Saturday morning, March 21st. And obviously when we get closer, we'll talk more about that. But just want to let you know that that's already in the works. I just need to try and squeeze a little more funds out of Costco. I think I might be able to persuade them to do that. They've been great, since we started using them last year. We did use Westminster Costco for many years, but then of course we had to switch to Thornton's, which is a good thing. I mean, we have to keep it, local as best as possible. And the shirt I'm wearing is Food for Hope, by the way. And they are one of the 4 agencies that we will be assisting this year. And I do volunteer with them. And I want to give a shout out to Emily Stromquist, Darcy Ball, Mayor Jan Coleman and her husband Dave. Dave is a board member at Food for Hope. So with all the great work that they do, and Mike Davis, the super volunteer coordinator who I like to razz every week. So, but anyway, we are starting next Tuesday, and I would be remiss if I did not mention that our club, at our meeting tomorrow at 12:05 at Red Lobster at 104th and Livingston, the reason why I mention it, I hear we have a couple very special guests who will be speaking. And I believe that would be the Honorable Mayor Leidy and the Honorable City Manager Geyer. So, and it's always nice to, Heather, always nice to have you come visit us again. So look forward to that. Look forward to hearing you speak, Mayor Leidy, as well, about the state of Northglenn. And of course, I know you're going to give a little pep talk saying you're going to win again on the food drive. So, anyway, I do want to throw in real quickly. I did represent our club Saturday evening at the Marriott Westminster, District 5450. That is the district that our club is in. Had our annual Future of Rotary dinner, which usually one of the higher ups of Rotary International comes to speak to us. And this year, our General Secretary, John Huco, came, and I had the honor of meeting him and speaking with him a little bit before the event started. He's been with Rotary for over 10 years. He was in government before he went into Rotary, and he's done amazing work, and it was great hearing him speak. So it was an honor to represent our club there Saturday evening. And with that, you all know I tend to get long-winded, so I will cut myself off here. So Mayor Leidy and Manager Geyer, look forward to seeing you tomorrow. I'll be there bright and early, and there might be a ceremony. Might be. I don't know if it's going to happen or not. It might be next week. I'm not going to say who or what. I'm going to leave it at that. I don't want to get in trouble. So, all right. I love you guys. Good luck in the food drive. I know you guys are thinking out of the box, which is good because we definitely are in Thornton. So I'm very excited to see what happens at the end of the day. If I'm allowed to say it, the 3 other agencies we're assisting, Thornton Community Food Bank in Thornton, and also here in Northglenn, Good Shepherd Presbyterian Church and Immaculate Heart of Mary Catholic Church. And Good Shepherd has a new person running things there this year because the Barb retired. So her name is Julie, I believe. So I'm going to try and meet with her tomorrow before the meeting. So, all right, that's all. I'll see you both tomorrow, and I'll see everybody else real soon. Thank you for all you do, guys. Love you.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. I don't think you really are clear on how competitive I am. So just just hold on to your hat. We're coming for you.
All right, very good. All right, have a good night. Take care.
Thanks, John. Okay, so if you happen to look at the agenda ahead of time, you may have noticed that the communication section has been moved up. I did send an email trying to explain a little bit about that, and I think it's something we're going to try, and I'm going to talk through kind of the purpose. But part of it is we have a lot of residents that lean in, and we share a lot of really awesome information during our communications. And it has been my experience that sometimes that's 10:45 and later, and our residents are missing out on some key information. So if we shift it up a little bit in the meeting agenda, then hopefully all of our residents will be able to hear all of the communications that we have. So a couple things, if you look at the agenda, the other shift is that we put the Legislative Policy Committee update under that. So that we're calling it out specifically, but then also the second item is all of the other city council committees. That is just kind of a visual reminder for all of us to think through what committees have we attended. You know, I personally look back at the calendar and go, okay, the last time we were together publicly, this is what I've done in between. And so that's just a visual reminder for everyone to bring forward those committee updates. So I'm going to go ahead and start today, just kind of piggybacking on the food drive piece. My number one was to discuss the change in agenda, so check. Number two is the food drive. So here's the thing. I am super competitive, and I want to make sure we win. Because winning is fun, but it's also, we benefit so many of our residents through this food drive that it's super important that we're all paying attention. So we have made a couple of adjustments to our food drive process. There are 4 locations that residents and employees and council can drop off food. So the rec center, the M&O building, the Justice Center, and City Hall. And Debbie Tuttle, I thought she was here a second ago, she had sent me an email. There will be bins by ward because we're running 2 also friendly competition. Competition is fun, it gets people motivated. So the first one is the building that collects the most. So if it's the rec center, if it's the Justice Center, the building that collects the most food will receive lunch for all. So that will be fun. So those buildings, we want to support those. So for example, if you wanted to have a little extra support to our police officers and you want to help them win lunch, you could take all of your donations to the Justice Center. Not that the other locations don't deserve it, that's just an example. Secondly, we are going to do a ward competition as well. And we're going to set a goal as a city council, and we're going to be collecting food by ward. And so that would encourage all of us to help spread the word. So if you have a social media account, if you have a way that you reach out to your residents, you want to say, hey, we want our ward to win. There's no official prize for the ward that wins, but we will celebrate in some way when it's over. So City Manager Geyer and I are running that. Yes, ma'am.
How are you gonna know the donations from Ward 3?
So that's what I was saying is, so they called it a polycart wrap. So they're wrapping the polycart, I'm assuming is what that means, with Ward 1, Ward 2, Ward 3, Ward 4. So when you come to City Hall, you can put them there. Or say, for example, you are really getting your neighbors, you can collect it at your house and then bring it in. You can be as creative as you want. You can be as creative as you want. We just want to lean in a little bit. Yeah.
What's the deadline for donations?
Yeah, so it starts February 15th and it runs through March 27th.
And 5 polycarts will be located in the council mail room. 1 for mayor and then 4 for each of the wards.
Oh, great.
In the
I was wondering where.
In the mail room.
She called it something else. It was like the council.
Yeah, it's
And I
the
didn't-
council mail room.
I didn't know what that was. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
I was just wondering how other people could come in and donate to the different wards if it's in the mail room.
I think you can take that one home. I'm assuming that's what they're there for.
Let staff work on that. We'll figure that out. So if a resident
No.
wants.
She's like, no.
If a resident wants to bring in donation and have it marked as a particular award, let me coordinate with staff at the front desk and we'll figure out how to make sure it gets in the respective ward polycart.
So we can check with Debbie if there's going to be ward polycarts in City Hall. My original thinking, and maybe
Just
I'm
have 'em out
totally
front?
raw, well, is if I was in well, I am, but hypothetically, if I was a Ward 1, maybe I would take it and find a business in Ward 1 that would host it additionally to get my Ward 1 people. Like, we could take it over to the Glen and put a sign up and get more. There's lots of ways to do it. I think what I would say is there's probably no wrong way to collect food donation, and the more the merrier. But we will celebrate our success at the end, and the building with the most gets lunch. So I'm sure we will have more discussion about it. And the third thing I wanted to add is the snow removal. This has been just a crazy winter. And we're getting a ton of positive comments, but these particular ones came through my daughter. So she works at a base program at an elementary school. And Adams 12 had a 2-hour delay, but base was still open. So she was talking to families, and they know that her mom's the mayor. And she got 5 different parents that came right up to her and said, "Tell your mom the city's doing an amazing job with snow removal." So that's a really fun, kind of very personalized compliment. And sometimes, we only see the negatives online. So just a face-to-face, like, way to go, the roads were awesome, and everyone felt safe. So thank you, because I know it was kind of an extended storm that stopped and started, and I'm sure kept our crews busy for a length of time. So now we'll go back to Ward 1.
Oh, okay.
Are you gonna do legislative first?
Oh,
Nope, it's the very top one, mayor and council.
oh,
Yeah.
okay.
so shall I cover committees now as well?
Sure,
Just everything?
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
Okay.
Just weave it in.
Well, the Outside Agency Funding Committee met last week, and we had 3 applications for sponsorships. And those came from the Northglenn High School co-ed cheer team, the Ralston House Dinner at 240 Union, and the 5-Star Education Foundation Reach for the Stars Gala. Going back to the Northglenn High School, this is, they're looking for a sponsorship for their trip to California for nationals. Actually, I think they're going this week. So they were looking for an additional $1,000, I believe. $4,000, and we ended up agreeing to fund $400. I think that ended up, I can't remember the percentage, but that's what we decided to give them. We figured they're going on the trip no matter what, but we wanted to help in some way, so we approved $400 for that. And then for the Ralston House dinner, I think everybody's kind of familiar with the Ralston House, but this dinner is happening on March 8th, Sunday, from 5 to 8 p.m. And we decided to purchase 10 tickets, and that is at a cost of, we purchased 12 tickets, and that cost $1,500. And so there are still 10 tickets up for grabs, whoever would like to go to that. And then for the 5-Star Education Foundation Reach for the Stars Gala, we decided to purchase 4 tickets at a cost of $1,500. And right now there are 3 tickets left on that, and the date for that is going to be Sunday, March 14th at 5 o'clock. And so if anyone's interested in going that, just let Susan Bach know and she can coordinate that. I also just wanted to mention a volunteer opportunity with all the snowstormers. Really need some volunteers. There's a wait list. It's something I've done since I've lived in Northglenn, and I think it's really important. And the Citizens Affair Board, I believe his name is Brian, he mentioned that he just does that in his neighborhood. Well, we actually have a program with the city where you can get signed up and help folks who just can't do it, and folks who need medications delivered and that sort of thing. So I'd really encourage people to reach out to Jenny Murphy to get signed up for that if you're able to. And then lastly, the North Metro Fire Rescue District. They've got their Citizens Academy coming up soon. Applications are due by March 2nd, and then the academy will last from April 1st until May 13th. So I would encourage people to look into that as well. And that's all I've got.
Can I ask,
Of course,
if we're interested in attending these events, who do we tell?
Susan Baca.
Got it.
Nothing forthcoming right now in the ward or in the community, but I can talk about legislative policy, or do you want to pass on that? No, other members talk about their communications.
You can share whatever you would like to.
I'll just jump into legislative policy. We took a look at 3 pending bills in the legislature that are of interest to the city right now. First of one, Madam Mayor, is Senate Bill 151, and excuse me, that is called the administration of the RTD. And there's a couple different things going on with this bill. First of all, of particular issue to Northglenn is this is going to expand the ability for people to sue under civil rights violations under state rather than federal law, which means this would open RTD up to potential numerous lawsuits, which could potentially then affect the opening and the efficacy of the end line. And so because of that, also part of the bill, they're also talking about adding 2 new board members at large. So a lot of different moving parts, and so the Legislative Policy Committee took a monitor position on this. We feel we need some more information to see how this develops, and we know that this could be positive and negative, but we want to watch and see how this develops at the time being. Second bill we took a look at is House Bill 1233. This is entitled Basic Life Functions in Public Spaces, also considered to be what's called a Homeless Bill of Rights bill, which makes it illegal to violate any natural human activity, which includes sitting, standing, eating, sleeping. And we also thought that there were other things definitional that haven't been articulated yet in the bill. And we also thought that the issue might be one that has some direct concern with local control in terms of things that we're doing in Northglenn that may be things that aren't happening in the county, things that we are going to proactively address in the homelessness task force that we talked about last week. And so we also took a monitor position on this to see how this develops at the time. Finally, House Bill 1266, and this is a bill, even though we're in the heart of winter, thinking of 4th of July, this is a bill that closes the loophole that says out-of-state license holders can still come to Colorado and buy illegal fireworks that are illegal for Colorado residents, but legal for out-of-state purchasers. And what we think is going to happen with this is that this bill 1266 closes that loophole. And so we decided to endorse and favor this bill moving forward.
Just a few things. The first thing that we went over the other night and attended the performance for the history of African American music, and it was well attended. It was really very, very good. And considering the night, and it was very cold and snowy, it was a full house. So you have to state again that we were doing a great job over at the theater. Today I attended a PBL over at the STEM Lab, which was really interesting, and it was discussing local government and specifically courts and traffic tickets. So it was pretty interesting, the different solutions that the kiddos came up with. I've attended a lot of them in the past, but this one gave me food for thought, so it was pretty interesting, some of their concepts. Other than that, we did attend the policeman's ball the other night, and it was great as always, and the awards to our different officers. We just have a great police department, and kudos to all of them. I mean, we couldn't do it without them. So thanks, Chief. Thank you very much for all your officers. And just one other general thing, Rocky Flats, my favorite board. We had a presentation that came from the health department and also from Jefferson County Parkway. They've done over 4,000 drilling components down there testing soil. Only one came back with a hot spot, so they're feeling pretty secure about moving forward. that. So anyway, that's all I have.
Three.
Oh, okay. Well, I would just reiterate what was said about the policeman's fall, because that was my first experience going to that, so Joyce got right on target with that. It was a wonderful experience, and, it was great to see these young people dedicating themselves to our community. That was, I wanted to mention. And then I did, since we last met, reach out to 2 schools in Ward 3. So I visited with Principal Stacy Folkman at the Gethsemane Lutheran School. And there had been some changes there that I don't know if people are aware of. They are right now only a preschool, and they're hoping to offer a kindergarten next year. So, and I will be reading on Dr. Seuss's birthday. So that's kind of the problem when you go into a school. You get volunteered for all kinds of things. And the other school I visited was Stuckey Elementary, and so I had a tour with Deborah Volker, who's the principal there. And they are in the very early stages of planning a career day. And I've already talked to City Manager Geyer about the possibility of some of our staff maybe, doing a presentation for different kinds of careers that the students there might be interested in. So that was basically it for me.
Mine is very short and sweet. Again, it's just a thank you to Chief and the police department for welcoming us into your family. I feel like it was a very, I don't know, I felt just really privileged to be there and just kind of experience the wonderful group that we have. And so thank you for the wonderful evening. I had a great time.
Yeah, well, I'll ditto that one. So it's been kind of a busy week for me, but besides the outside agency funding and the Finance Committee meeting, I attended on February the 5th, Wednesday, PBL at Northglenn High School, and their project was bilingualism, the importance of bilingualism. And again, I just have to kudos to Northglenn High School for doing the awesome work that they do with their students, preparing them to lead into the next decade. Also on Wednesday, on a personal note, my grandson signed with Ottawa College in Kansas. Nice. Signing day. As far as I know, he got a full ride scholarship, so we'll see what that turns into and how he likes being away from home. Thursday, I attended Around the County in 90 Days with Debbie Tuttle. She's not here, but she did an excellent job in presenting Northglenn. I won't go into the other communities. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
All right, couple of updates for me. First is on Friday last week, I participated in the Colorado Communities for Climate Action bi-monthly board meeting. And one of the biggest pieces that I wanted to share with you all that came out of that board meeting is that we have decided to change up how we review our policy statement. So every single year, we go through a very painstaking process in wordsmithing and looking through the multiple page document as an entire group. And as the organization has continued to grow, I believe we're up to 33 members, that process has gotten more and more complicated as well as time consuming. And so I was a part of a subcommittee that really looked at our process and determined that there was a better way to evaluate our policy statement and make some changes. So a couple of things to share is one, policy statements now are essentially limited to 1 to 2 sentences on each issue area and are intended to stay very broad because we very much believe that a policy statement is only a statement and it's what we do and the actions that we take in advocating for those particular positions that's important. And then secondly, we decided to maintain the unanimous consent proposal or unanimous consent agreement. And so what that means is that every single member jurisdiction agrees 100% or basically agrees with the policy statement, and anything that a member objects to is not included because we think that there's a lot of power in 33 organizations coming together and all being on the same page. And then finally, we will continue to review the policy statement each year. And so that'll be something that I'll bring back to all of you, I believe in either May or June for you to review and approve before I go back to CC4CA and share our thoughts. So wanted to make sure that you all knew that that was a change in the way that we have reviewed policy, and we'll continue to move forward. Looking ahead at this week, I will be participating in the CC4CA Policy Committee on Thursday, and then the Colorado Municipal League will be meeting for our policy committee on Valentine's Day. So we'll be sharing a lot of love, hopefully, in that committee. We'll see. Two more things. First is that it is flu season, and the flu wreaked havoc in my home last week, and so I thought I would share a couple of things. One is it's really important that folks be paying attention, and I'll share some prevention tips in just a moment, but over this flu season, there have been 1,700 people who have been hospitalized with flu complications, as well as 2 child deaths. So it's serious and it's ugly, and a couple of ways that you all can prevent the flu is, 1, get yourself vaccinated. 2, keep your hands clean. That means using soap. Cover your mouth and nose with a tissue when you cough. Don't touch your face with unwashed hands. Eat healthy and balanced meals to strengthen your immune system. Exercise, and then stay home if you do have the flu for at least 24 hours until your fever's gone. And I think that'll help all of us in the long run. And my final note is that while the mayor is very competitive, I also want to share that Ward 4 is extremely competitive. And when it comes to the food drive, we don't need a prize for winning. Bragging rights will be sufficient. Right. So I look forward to this competition with all. That's all for me.
City Manager Geyer, do you have anything?
Nothing really tonight, other than over the last few days, I've sent City Council several emails. So please be sure to read those emails thoroughly. I've been providing quite a bit of information related to the Management Services Reorganization and Transition, where I'll be bringing several items forth on February 24th. So happy to answer any questions if you have those. And I think everything else in terms of events we've attended and so forth have already been covered, so I won't repeat those. Thank you.
I do have 2 items tonight. First, today kicks off the more public part of Colorado's first presidential primary election in 20 years. So some exciting things coming there. Unaffiliated voters can participate in the primary by choosing 1 ballot in the envelope that they'll receive, and by only returning 1 ballot to the county to have that counted. Another piece of that is that 17-year-olds who will turn 18 by the general election day on November 3rd can also participate in the primary. So that's exciting. My daughter turns 18 on November 10th, and so I'm not quite sure when she'll forgive me for her birthday being 7 days late this year. But that's okay. We'll also have our 24-hour drop-off ballot boxes available for voters. Voter service centers will also be available from February 24th through March 3rd. And Go Vote Colorado is your best online resource when it comes to registering to vote or checking your mailing address, making sure that your voter information is up to date. So I would definitely encourage everybody to hop online or come into the city clerk's office or any Adams County election office to make sure that you'll receive that ballot that goes out this week. And then also the Citizens Affairs Board. We still have vacancies on that board. If Mr. Weselko is appointed in a couple weeks, that will still leave the board with 2 vacancies for residents in Wards 1 and Ward 3. So if you know anybody who is interested or who might be interested in serving on that board, please send them our way so that we can get them some information about applying for that position. And that's all. Thank you.
Nothing tonight.
Nothing? Okay, any other final communications? Did anyone say something that someone else wants to piggyback? No. I am going to echo everyone's compliments of the policeman's ball. How do you say that?
Police ball.
Police officers, yeah. Like, I knew I wasn't saying it right. It really was a great event. The celebrations and the way that you honor your employees it was lovely. So well done on that. Okay, so we now have Jason Loveland, Director of Finance, will present the December 2019 financial report. Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. I'm going to turn this a little bit because...
And is anyone else hearing that, like,
Yeah, there's like
whooshing?
Fan or something, yeah.
Okay, I just didn't know if it was bothering anybody.
Moved it.
Oh,
There you go. Thank you.
There you go.
That's
Well
it.
done.
Well, welcome. We made
Hi.
it through the year. So this is the final quarter update through December 2019. These numbers are not final as in audited numbers, but I'll give you some updates on sales tax because we just kind of got those things wrapped up last week. Year-to-date sales tax, so this is through November collections. We're at $21.3 million. That's an increase of 2.5% compared to the previous year. And as we moved through and collected in January, our final month's sales tax in December, we stayed at that 2.5%. So overall up 2.5% on the year, which isn't bad. It's down from 3.2% the prior year, so it's not quite as strong. But overall 2.5% is looking pretty good in the metro area. Specifically, some numbers behind that 2.5%. Sales tax is up 1%. Food tax is up 9%. That's largely due to the addition at Huron. Auto use tax is up 5%, and then accommodations tax is up 15%. One thing to note on the marijuana tax, that's up over 30%, largely because we added the special tax of 2%. Kind of extracting the data a little bit more, you'll find that the industry-wide, I know this has been a question throughout the year, it ended up being down 2.8%. So overall, relatively flat, a little decline. There's some competition in some neighboring communities. I think that probably led to that decrease in that industry slightly. But overall, good sales tax growth for the city in 2019. And then we'll go fund by fund. The general fund, you'll see here total revenues of $25.3 million and expenditures just slightly over that of $25.9 million. You'll see the net change in fund balance was a decrease of $704,000. And I'm not sure why the slide looks like that. I hope your file does not look like that, but that's a little skewed for some reason. With that, once we post the year-end accrual revenues, that'll be about $2.5 million. Expenditures of about $1 million. We'll expect that total change in fund balance for the general fund to be right around $1 million. That's kind of what we're forecasting at this point. You'll see most of the collection and spending rates, or not most, all of the collection and spending rates are right in line with what we see historically. One expenditure line, supplies and equipment, you'll see is, I guess, over budget by $275,000. That's for a couple of specific areas that we had accounted for throughout the year. One was increase in sand and ice slicer for snow removal purposes. And then additionally, the holiday lights, that was an additional purchase of around $90,000 that we made. So those two things largely drive that line to show as over budget for the year. Go ahead to the Conservation Trust Fund. We can circle back on any of the funds or any of the lines at the end if you'd like. Total revenues, $460,000 and expenditures of just under $1.7 million. Major projects here include Northwest Open Space of about $1.3 million, and then the Kiwanis Splash Pad project that we've talked about several times. Getting wrapped up, almost 100% complete on both of those line items in that fund. In the capital projects fund, revenues of $8.1 million. You'll see the other financing sources. That's the financing that we talked about for the Civic Campus project of $42 million included there. And then total expenditures of $8.1 million. A few of the projects underlined in that in this fund, again, Northwest Open Space was funded out of this project, or this project's fund of $1.5 million. Kiwanis upgrades of over $1 million. We've got residential streets, 112th Metro line, RTD line road project, City Hall roof replacement, and then I-25 and 120th bridge repainting project. That was a $400,000 project. So all in all, revenues coming in as expected, and then nothing is overspent fund-wise in our projects. And then in the water fund, total revenues of $11.1 million, user charges and fees of $7.2 million. That's flat year over year. Consumption ended up being down 5.7%. So there were some savings there on the revenue side, of course, but then also conservation throughout the community, which is a positive thing. On the expenditure side of about, those were $8.3 million. You'll see the large line item for capital outlay. Those were large projects for the terminal reservoir over at the water treatment plant of about $700,000, another $700,000 for the laboratory information system upgrade that we made. Again, net change in fund balance, if we stopped right now on a cash basis, a positive $1.8 million, and we'll expect that to change when we get accruals done for audit purposes. The wastewater fund total revenue $4.2 million and expenditures of $4.4 million. User charges and fees ended up being plus 7%. There was a rate increase there, so we would expect to see an increase, which we did in the wastewater fund. Again, on the expenditure side, nothing of note as far as being too different from what we expected with our budget. The stormwater fund, revenues of $430,000, expenditures of $138,000. Revenue was flat as there was no change in fees for 2019, and then expenditures, basic operational salary benefits in that fund, and a couple of small projects, studies that were handled. And then on the sanitation fund, total revenues of $1.9 million and expenditures of $1.6 million. Again, flat revenues in that fund, and then expenditures in line with projected budget. So overall, although sales and use taxes, 75% of the general fund revenue, and it was up 2.5%, our overall revenues are up less than 1% compared to last year. So we'll continue to monitor that as we move into 2020 and see if there's any trends that we can see. Not on the slides, cash investments at the end of the year were at $71.2 million, and that was up from $67 million in 2018. So with that, that's a quick summary of our finances. We're overall in good shape, stayed within budget, and revenues came in as we expected for the most part.
Anyone have questions? Jason? Yes.
I don't have a specific question, but looking on page 11, tax collected by geographic code, and looking at item number 9, you're on 104th. Percentage change is 54.6%. That's a wow.
Redevelopment made a difference.
That's a wow. Thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Jason.
Okay, moving into the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Approval.
Please open the vote.
The vote is open. I will close that vote, and the consent agenda passes unanimously.
Okay, moving into resolutions. We will start with CR 42. Joanna, will you read the title?
A resolution adopting a public art policy for the city of Northglenn, Colorado.
Move for approval.
Second.
City Manager Guyer, will you provide a summary?
Actually, I'm going to have Amanda Peterson provide the summary this evening.
Okay.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is kind of a follow-up to the items we brought to you at study session last week, where we have several updates. Michael Stricker was here for the study session and provided you with an overview of where the NAHF is. And one of those items was their current policy. And really, they've made a couple of updates just that are in line with how we're actually doing things since that original policy was adopted.
Okay. Any questions or discussion? No. Okay. Log myself out. Okay.
I'll just stay
You want to?
Just stay there.
Please open the vote.
Vote is open. I'll close that vote, and CR 42 passes unanimously.
Okay, CR 43. Joanna, will you read the title?
A resolution approving an intergovernmental agreement between the City of Northglenn and the Regional Transportation District regarding artwork for the North Metro Rail line.
Move for approval.
Second.
Hello again.
Amanda's back.
So this is the second one, I believe, 4 total. So this,
Yes.
or the third of 4 total.
Just stay
This
with
is the
us.
IGA with RTD that lays out the parameters for the placement of salvaire, for the artwork on the wall, and for the wraps that will go on the 2 or 3 boxes that are adjacent to the rail line.
Any discussion? Yep. Study session was very thorough.
It was very thorough.
That was the goal.
Please open the vote.
The vote is open. I'll close that vote, and CR 43 passes unanimously.
Okay, CR 44. Joanna, will you read the title?
A resolution accepting the sculpture known as Salvaire and approving the placement of the sculpture.
Move for approval.
Second.
So
Amanda.
this one is the actual placement of salvaire. Now there is an IGA with RTD that allows us to place it. Each year we bring the People's Choice winner to you to confirm the placement that the NAHF has recommended. Their recommended placement for salvaire is in the bus loop at the RTD stop. So that will allow us to kind of spread just a few dollars around what we think is really making a pretty impactful art installation at that stop.
I think that's any other discussion about
It's just a comment that I think, just the whole theme, transportation and, the sculpture and the wrap, there's a lot of thought and conversation put into it, and it's wonderful.
And we appreciate everything that the foundation did to go into that. I have to give a little shout out to Kate Fisher in our senior center, who, when Salvaire first won, and we were kind of talking, mentioned to Michael, hey, that could be a really good location. And one thing kind of led to the other, and that transportation theme really came out of that. So thanks to Kate for speaking up.
No, I think that's exciting. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. I'll close that vote, and CR 44 passes unanimously.
CR 50. Joanna, will you read the title?
A resolution accepting grant funds and approving the intergovernmental agreement between Adams County and the cities of Arvada, Brighton, Commerce City, Federal Heights, Northglenn, Thornton, Westminster, and the town of Bennett regarding the Census Outreach Grant Program.
Move for
Second.
City Manager Guyer, will you provide a
Sure,
summary?
I will kick it off. So Adams County received about a total of $420,000 in grant funding for census outreach efforts. We're one of several organizations that are receiving $30,000 in grant funding. So Diana thought this would be a great opportunity to update you on the next steps that we have planned and recap any of the efforts that have already taken place. So I'll turn it over to you, Diana.
Welcome.
I'll try and make it brief since you guys have everything written down.
Did we vote on this census?
That's what she's talking about right now.
It's a different item. So previously, this will have been the second census IGA that's coming before you.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's what you're thinking about.
Okay, thank you.
The first one supported the person who's coordinating at Adams County, Crystal, who's brought everybody together in a coordinated committee of not only the county, but all the municipalities and a bunch of other organizations around the community. We get together monthly, talk about our efforts to encourage people to do the census, of course, but in general, really trying to reach out to hard-to-serve populations, which is what the grant targets. So you'll see in the plan that we put together, we really have a two-faceted census. The first is just awareness. Hey, the census is here, you need to do the census, this is how to do the census, this is why it's great. But we also have something called, they're calling community hubs, which really means if you need help, come here. And we're gonna have that at the recreation center. Anytime the recreation center's open, we'll have 2 computers people can come and use. Anytime the senior center's open, not only seniors, but anybody can get support with the staff person up at the senior center, so that is great. But with the $30,000 grant, we're also gonna do a special table where we have a community hub open on Wednesdays from 4 to 8 p.m. and Saturdays 10 to 2 p.m. We'll always have somebody there who can speak Spanish, which is a big deal, and we'll have the money to promote that those resources are there. So what we're really hoping to do is offer resources to people who would struggle on their own to complete the census. Now, whether that be seniors or English as a second language, or just really they got it and they're like, I don't know what to do with this, we'll have trained staff there to help them, not only when the recreation center's open and the senior center's open, but some evening hours and some Saturday hours with somebody who can speak Spanish. And if people call ahead, and whether they're hearing impaired or have another language need, we can line that up through the county and have them as well. So really, the $30,000 is offering the opportunity to provide some extra resources for people. And as you all know, the more people we have participate in the census, the better it is for all of us to make sure, we're getting access to all of those resources that census numbers are, people use as census numbers to base them on. Questions about what we're doing? And if you want to take a look, we're putting it everywhere, doing some paid placement, really trying to promote it heavily so that we reach everybody in our community and everybody feels supported and has access.
So, and I know that obviously it'd have to be dependent upon how much money we have, but do we actually have somebody who's gonna be going around and knocking doors and
The
trying?
county does, yes.
The county has somebody
So the
who's gonna
census
do that?
actually hires people to do the door-to-door thing. So they
Okay,
really
cool.
have, the county has their efforts, and they do door-to-door, and of course, they're sending out the actual information about the census. And then this is just an additional resource that a number of communities around us are offering something similar for community hubs, all the libraries, for example. But here in Northglenn, we decided to take it a step further and really have some set hours on a regular basis all through April, May, and June.
Okay, awesome.
Is there any chance we can promote the webpage that we have on Northglenn for the Census 2020 in the connection?
Yeah, absolutely.
Bring
It's-
that to residents' attention?
Yeah, it was in the last issue because we had set it up just before it, so it was in this current issue of the connection and will be in all the ones moving forward.
Right.
A little bit more prominently because that's where we're going to point people to, hey, these are our hours, hey, these are the resources, all that stuff. None of that has been publicized yet because I need you guys to okay the IGA. So once you guys do that, we are all set up to go.
And just to follow up on that, any of us, and I'm happy to research this or help you out or anything, but I think it's important to bring to residents idea just the absolute avalanche of fiscal impact that the Senate has. And Councilwoman Goff and I were attending an event, and we had a speaker from the Adams County Census, and I forget the number, Councilwoman, if it was
it's phenomenal.
8 million just for
It was
the
a lot of money.
the metro, so I shouldn't say that without having the hard numbers in front of me. But, people will, well, I don't wanna do it, or, it doesn't really matter, and then there's folks that think that, it's giving up their data and their privacy, but the idea of the good work that we're doing in this city and the needs that we have for our community, I really think if you communicate the fiscal impact of this, it's just such a no-brainer and has such indelible impact on our community financially.
Well, we pay a huge number of taxes to the federal government, and one of the best ways to get your federal funds back into your community where it's needed is they base it on census numbers. So whether that's housing, whether that's food subsidies, whether that's school, just a number of mental health and health programs, all based on census numbers. So we want to make sure and get as many people as we can, make sure that they're counted. So a big effort on our part, in addition to what the county and the state are doing. So we will do our absolute best and offer the resources and try and get the word out in some different types of ways, including inviting community partners if they want to come on one of the evenings or Saturdays to offer a resource desk and reach out to their community as well, because we can't do it alone, and some of our community partners have access to audiences that we don't always engage. So to really make that effort. And to close, I did want to mention that Dolores Huerta, who's a national advocate, community activist, is coming to speak about the census. So if anybody's interested in that, let me know. She's coming to Denver, so that's kind of cool. Other questions?
Sounds great.
All right. I have to say thanks to Adams County. We would promote this on all of our channels, but I don't think we'd be able to offer the resources of languages other than English and hours outside of our normal hours without this grant. So good job to them.
Okay, thank you. Okay, please open the vote.
The vote is open. I'll close that vote, and CR 50 passes unanimously.
Okay, we're moving into discussion items. We have two this evening. The first one is council communications support. So Diana Wilson will come back and present to us. Thank you.
All right. So, first of all, thank you to all of you for taking time out of your busy schedules to meet with me to talk about these topics, about what you would like to see moving forward, what you think was fruitful in the past, just trying to really wrap my head around what we do as a communications team on behalf of council to promote all of the activities that you do, which is quite a bit. So I did a write-up to kind of talk a little bit about what we've done, what we're doing now, and some ideas for the future. So I will work through that, but I did miss an attachment, sorry about that, our Good Neighbor Award, so I'm gonna pass that down, which we'll get to in a moment. All right, so hopefully you know our platforms, but just in case, we send out the connection every month to every address in the city. We have a website, we have social media, we have city managers report, Channel 8, and direct mail. We have other platforms as well, like, signs on the side of trash trucks and stuff like that, but these are the ones that are most applicable to how we communicate about city council activities. What's changed recently? We've changed the legislative recap about in the connection to really be a little bit less of a report of what happened and more of a report on this is what's coming up and we'd like you to be engaged. Connection articles all tied to the strategic plan that you passed in the fall. And we highlight one each month. So far we've done sustainability and infrastructure, and next month is community engagement. In addition to the monthly mayor column, we've now added a ward column. So Ward 1 was highlighted this month, and we'll have Ward 3 next month. Thank you for sending me your information. And social media related to city council items, really am trying to do it real time. So whether you had a retreat or gave awards tonight or had a ward meeting, if somebody on my staff is there, we'll send it out via Facebook or tweet it right then and there. So a little bit more real-time news instead of, this happened a couple of days ago. Mayor's monthly minute. It's hard to say. I don't know how Meredith does it on TV. But she asked about having a little bit more news on our channels. So we started a monthly video, and that's going really well. And then beefed up your bios a little bit on the website with the Q&A that I sent out to you guys. So as soon as you send me those 10 questions, we'll put them up on the website so that if people want to learn a little bit more about you, they can always go to the website. And it isn't just that you're from this ward and how to contact you, but a little more personal information and why you're doing what you're doing. So in process, we have an e-newsletter. We're targeting mid-March for an e-newsletter. So this would be like Connection Light, I guess is the best way to put it. We'll pick like 4 to 6 big things that are happening. We're timing it mid-month because you get the connection at the beginning of the month in your mailbox. So then in email, you would get this. People will subscribe. The other benefit of this is people outside of Northglenn would be able to subscribe if they're interested in Northglenn news. So that will roll out in March. New resident welcome. This was kind of interesting because the addresses that we have are all protected. You know, this is private information. However, by making it it's not a personal letter or anything, we're trying to identify people that are likely new residents and sending them a letter of welcome. Kind of going to be up to you guys whether you want to sign a card personally or you want us to write a letter. And along with that, a one-pager on Northglenn and how to find out about Northglenn, promote our website, just give people some good general information if you just moved here. I'm gonna get my first list at the end of February, and I'll try to get that out in March. We're not really sure how many addresses will be generated from that, so I would love to give you really specifics, but you know, if somebody's like, oh, look, we have 250, we'll be like, oh, we didn't know we had that many, but we will definitely get it done. It's just whether we can do it in-house or whether we need to contract it with our printer and mailing system, printer and mailer vendor. Annual report is in process. That will be in the March connection. Mayor and ward outreach, of course, you guys do that. So that's an ongoing process. I did want to point out that we have a few dates. The mayor's going to go every other month, and we have dates from Ward 4, but I don't have any solid dates. I have one date from you guys. I really want to point out that a minimum of 6 weeks if you want us to promote it well. Put it on social media, put it in the connection, send out a postcard to your ward, a minimum of 6 weeks. And I know that might seem like a lot to you, but it really is. You know, it takes time to design the postcard, have you to proof it, get it turned around, get it printed, get it to our mail company. So we want people to have the information in hand, and we want them to see it more than once. Really what we need is for people to see it a minimum of 3 times in order for it to really settle with them so that we get a decent turnout. And I do think it works. You know, for the first Mayor's Mingle, we had a postcard, we had it in the connection, we put it on social media, and we filled the house. So if you can give me enough lead time, I know there's enough people interested in your ward that will come to your meeting, unless you put something really like, you know, we're just going to sit there and talk at you for an hour. We need to engage a little bit more than that. Give them some stuff that they're interested in. If we have enough lead time, I'm confident you have a very engaged community and you'll have a nice turnout. So 6 weeks. The earlier the better. So thank you to Ward 4 for giving me all of your dates. I plan to have a web page that has all of the ways that you can engage with council, which is extensive, to be honest with you. Digital engagement tool. I did want to mention, you guys, actually when I met with all of you, we talked a little bit about this, and then recently you received an email from someone. So I've done a lot of research into digital engagement tools. About 6 different companies have approached me. I've listened to pitches from 3. And they range from everywhere from Bang the Table, which is what Wheat Ridge and Lakewood do. For us, that would cost about $12,000, so it's not cheap, and a fair amount of staff time. I wouldn't say we'd never do that, but I would say we should take a baby step first to make sure we would utilize that kind of platform well. We already have something in place called OpenGov, which Jason uses for our financial transparency. So for a couple of $1,000 as opposed to $12,000, we can have what's called a virtual town hall. So we're looking at that option. We're talking to the vendor at the end of this month, and not only for city council, but the new comprehensive plan involving that staff, the new assistant to the city manager, if she's here, really using that platform for more than just one thing. And it would offer a way for us to have conversations with people digitally, a little more, a moderated discussion as opposed to a free-for-all like you end up with on social media. I'm sure none of you have ever seen that happen. Anyway, so are looking into a digital engagement tool, but my recommendation is that we use the vendor that we already have, add these couple of modules, see how much we use it, and if we want to get more complicated moving forward, we can. There's even more complicated ones. Public Input's a good example, where they take every platform you have, whether that's a mailing list, an email list, all these different things, aggregate it, tell you which people are, there's overlay between people, and all, just an amazing amount of information that I'm not really sure we really have the staff to review and utilize, but some amazing stuff out there. If we had a really large database, I can see why that would be in demand, but at this point, when your ticket sales are pulling at the theater and your rec center and everything does pretty well, I'm not sure what our problem is to solve. So it's really about evaluating how we can best use our communications budget and get the most bang for our buck. So I was leaning towards, let's make this small investment first and see what kind of bang we get.